Good day. My name is Mr. Hugh Wilson. I am a safety specialist with the North Carolina Army National Guard Safety and Occupational Health Office. And this presentation focuses on off-duty activities and examines how awareness can help you manage risk and slow or eliminate the continued loss of soldiers to preventable off-duty mishaps. During this presentation, we will discuss where we stand as an Army in terms of mishaps, the types of mishaps that are most prevalent, potential hazards and control measures, and most importantly, how managing risk can help you prevent a mishap that could leave you seriously injured and or deceased. The term accident and mishaps are used interchangeably throughout this presentation. However, the Army has moved to the term mishap, so we will try to stick with mishap as we move through this presentation. When we use or hear the term accident, most people envision an event that occurred randomly or by chance, or it was an event that couldn't be prevented. Let's imagine that you were involved in a couple of accidents in quotation marks. The first was a motor vehicle accident, and the second was simply spilling a cup of coffee. Was there something you or someone else could have done to prevent them or lessen the consequences? If you had replaced the ball tires on your car and brake for the yellow light instead of stomping on the gas pedal to speed through it, could you have prevented the slide on the icy road that resulted in you crashing into another vehicle? If your passenger had been wearing his or her seatbelt, could they have survived the crash rather than suffering fatal injuries as a result of being thrown from the vehicle? If you hadn't filled your cup to the very top and were looking at it rather than your cell phone, could you avoid spilling the coffee on your bare feet and burning your toes? These scenarios set the stage for the ultimate question. If an individual or individuals fail to take appropriate actions to prevent an unwanted event from occurring, was it really a mishap?
Last year, our Army lost 86 soldiers to off-duty mishaps, 86 lost lives. That's a company-sized element, not to mention hundreds of injuries. A soldier is ejected from a car and hits a tree. Another drowns trying to cross a swollen creek. Another soldier runs into a city bus on his motorcycle when trying to race another rider. These are all true stories. But were they accidents? Were they really accidents? What is an accident? Is it just an event left to chance? From my foxhole, an accident is usually due to complacency, overconfidence, or lack of training, but mostly from a failure to meet basic standards. In most cases, a leader could have made a difference. With that perspective, watch and learn from this presentation, and you'll realize there are no accidents. If you understand that, you'll understand they're preventable.
From FY17 to FY21, the Army lost an average of 86 soldiers each year in off-duty mishaps. That's over 3 times the number of soldiers lost to on-duty mishaps, and it's a devastating loss to our Army. Predictions are that if we continue to take unacceptable risks in our off-duty activities, we will lose another 84 soldiers from our formations by the end of FY23. Can you help change this outcome? So, as you will see throughout the presentation, alcohol often plays a leading role in mishaps. Since FY17, there have been nearly 300 off-duty mishaps in the Army where alcohol use was confirmed or suspected. Alcohol consumption slows your reaction time, and as you're well aware, it impairs both your judgment and your vision. These factors can lead to a mishap. Most alcohol-related mishaps involve private motor vehicles, both the two-wheel and four-wheel variety. Each year, soldiers also die while handling weapons, boating, swimming, fishing, and participating in other activities while consuming alcohol. We are going to take a look at each of these activities that often result in off-duty fatalities. So we'll start with water related.
I was never a good swimmer. I mean, I could maybe get across a pool, but Swimming across the lake by myself after a few beers? A recovery crew is out looking for me, out where my friends think they last saw me. It'll be a few more hours before they find me. By then, I'll be baked and bloated by the sun. My girlfriend will recognize me only by the tattoo on my arm down there. The news will say I was a victim of drowning. I was a victim of myself. This was no accident.
So from FY17 to FY21, and just so everyone understands, I'm not going to state that date range anymore. So just know that statistics we're talking about, unless otherwise stated, are taken from FY17 to FY21. So nearly half, 45% of the water-related fatalities in the last 5 years involved a leader. Was the fate of those soldiers really the result of mishaps? If you don't know how to swim or are a weak swimmer, should you really be wading the ocean alone? Should you be riding a boat or a jet ski without a life jacket? Should you be participating in any water-related activities after or while consuming alcohol? Think through the activity before the action occurs and apply the principles used to prevent mishaps on duty. Training, standards, discipline. Training. If you learn to swim, you are less likely to drown. Standards. Army regulations require that you follow state and local policies to wear a wet life jacket, which also offers drowning protection, especially if you go into the water unexpectedly. Discipline. You know that drinking alcohol impairs your ability to reason and to protect yourself from harm. So you should exercise discipline and limit or avoid alcohol consumption while relaxing in or around the world. Excuse me, water. When participating in any type of water-related activity, it is important to identify the hazards and to know your limits. For example, when swimming in rivers, lakes, and oceans, be aware of swift currents and undertows. In just minutes, even strong swimmers can tire rapidly in cool water and become unable to help themselves. The Coast Guard ranked operator intentions, operator experience, improper lookout, excessive speed, and machinery failure as the top 5 contributing factors in recreational boating mishaps during 2020. And when it comes to fatal boating mishaps, alcohol use was the leading contributing factor. I'll say it again, alcohol was the leading contributing factor. You need to be aware that boating under the influence on waterways is just as illegal and dangerous as a DUI on the roadway. Training and PPE play critical roles in waterways. According to the 2020 Coast Guard statistics regarding fatal recreational boating mishaps, where instruction and cause of death were known, 77% of deaths occurred on boats where the operator had not received boating safety instruction, and 86% of those who drowned failed to wear a life jacket. Were these really mishaps, or could they have been prevented? Once again, training standards and discipline are critical requirements for success. Training. Take a Coast Guard approved boating safety course. Standards. Review local laws and policies. Discipline. Ensure that you, your buddies, and your family members use life jackets and the person operating the boat does not consume alcohol. In addition, be sure to have a float plan. A float plan is an itinerary of when and where you plan to go while on the water. It is completed before you go boating and given to a person who can notify the Coast Guard or other rescue organization if you fail to check in according to the plan. Rip currents. Rip currents can be killers. The United States Life Saving Association estimates that more than 100 people die annually on our nation's beaches due to rip currents, which account for over 80% of rescues performed by lifeguards. To avoid a rip current, never swim alone, and when possible, swim at a lifeguard protected beach. Obey all instructions and orders from lifeguards if present. Make sure you understand the significance of warning flags. Remember, the absence of red flags does not assure safe conditions. When swimming at an unguarded beach, be cautious at all times. If in doubt, don't go out. When caught in a rip current, remain calm and think clearly. Conserve your energy. Do not fight a rip current. If you're able to swim out of it, float or calmly tread water, then parallel swim to the shoreline. When certain you are out of the current, swim toward the shoreline. If you're still unable to reach the shore, draw attention to yourself. Face the shore, wave your arms, and yell for help. If you see someone in trouble, get help from a lifeguard. If a lifeguard is not available, have someone call 911. Throw the rip current victim something that floats and yell for them to swim parallel to the shore until they are out of the rip current. Remember, many people drown while trying to save someone else from a rip current.
That was good. I think we got time to hit one more bar. Come on, man. It's late. Late? It's not late.
Let's
Come
go for a
on.
ride.
Look, there's one right there. Come on.
Well, that hurt. All I wanted was just one more. Guess that last drink should have been my last one. Or maybe a couple back from there. Or maybe if I'd used the crosswalk. There's a concept. Or if I'd done what Mom hammered into me starting age 3. Look both ways before you cross. Or you could get into an accident. But really, this was no accident.
Over the past 5 years, 34 soldiers lost their lives due to pedestrian mishaps. Nearly half of the soldiers killed in pedestrian mishaps were leaders. In the battle of man versus automobile train, your rank doesn't provide you with extra protection. And if you go for a walk after a night out of drinking, that does not improve your odds for survival. 74% of the pedestrian fatalities occurred at night, and alcohol impairment was involved in at least 18% of the incidents. While you should never drink and drive, walking may not be your best alternative. Spring for a cab fare rather than taking a chance on roadways if you are impaired. We all know cab fare is cheaper than a DUI. It also beats becoming roadkill. If you think you're safe, if you avoid being outside during the summer months, think again. Logically, that's when you think most of the mishaps happen, with more vehicles on the roads and people out enjoying the nicer weather. In reality, it didn't matter what time of the year it was. The deaths of these 34 soldiers were spread evenly throughout the year. Sadly, over half of the soldiers killed in vehicle pedestrian collisions just let themselves get too close to the path of a multi ton vehicle. Some were intoxicated, but many were just careless. Even when using a crosswalk, never assume a driver sees you. 11 of them were killed in the vicinity of a fender bender or a disabled vehicle. Now, I will say that we just got today, 27 February, a preliminary mishap, preliminary loss report from the Combat Readiness Center. Vehicles were traveling in a convoy, I believe it was 13 of them, from Fort Lewis McChord down to a camp in Oregon. They had a vehicle break down and it pulled over to the side of the road. The service member that was hit and deceased was actually placing out warning triangles on the side of the road when a civilian driver traveling at a high rate of speed hit and killed the individual instantly. So even when we're on the roadway and we're putting out warning triangles and we're doing the right things, we have to stay vigilant. We have to stay on guard and we have to keep spotters to help. Hey man, there's a car coming your way. Move out of the way. Something to where we can get ourselves recognized. All right. So trains. In all fairness, sometimes you can't avoid having to walk on a busy road, but there is never a valid excuse for being hit by a train. Pedestrians who choose to walk on railroad tracks are trespassing on private property. Depending on your location, you can be fined several hundred to several $1,000s. You can also get a one-way ticket to death. Case in point, 3 soldiers are dead. Would you really call being struck by a train while on a railroad track a mishap? The answer is a simple no. In the battle of human versus train, the train always wins. So stay off and away from tracks, and there will be no battle for you to lose. All right. So, as a pedestrian, you can avoid an accident and reach your destination by following these tips. First and foremost, see and be seen. Most pedestrian mishaps occur at night, so it pays to be especially vigilant after dark. Always wear a substantial amount of reflective clothing and carry a flashlight. But don't let that make you overconfident. Just because a driver sees a tiny flash of light ahead doesn't guarantee they'll recognize it as a person. During the day, make eye contact with the driver and hold your hand up before stepping out in front of the vehicle. Many drivers are distracted. Don't assume a driver is going to stop just because the light is red and the car is slowing down. So, back when I was active duty, we had a first sergeant during whatever our last formation for the week was, whether it was Thursday because of a long weekend or Friday, normal short weekend. Our first sergeant would always say, even when the light takes green, take another second to scan and make sure that everybody is indeed going to come to a stop. Just don't assume. There's been many a times where I still to this day hear First Sergeant Carroll speaking those words, and when the light turns green, I watch and look and make sure it does everybody stop. Occasionally, I'll get the persons out in a hurry and they want to honk at me, but that's fine. All right, take that extra second, make sure everybody is going to stop, then proceed. So both at night and during the day, this can be predictable. Be where you're supposed to be and where drivers expect you to be. Use all your senses when on foot and be hyper aware of your surroundings, whether you are near a roadway or crossing a parking lot. According to the National Safety Council, distracted walking incidents are on the rise. Your focus needs to be on the traffic situation around you and not on your phone. Wait until you are standing still in a safe area to make the call or read that text. All right. Everybody talks about don't text and drive, don't be on the cell phone and drive. It's just as important while you're walking in a busy area or anywhere near any type of vehicle movement. Use the crosswalk and don't suddenly step out from behind a parked vehicle or some visual obstruction halfway down the street. It is important to look both ways. Follow the rule of look left, right, then left again before crossing the street. Keep in mind, if you're in a country where vehicles operate on the left side of the road, you need to modify that to look right, left, and then right again before crossing. If you must walk in a roadway, make sure you are facing traffic. This gives you the ability to spot erratic driving and move out of the way if necessary. And finally, avoiding walking while impaired by alcohol. The same factors that make drinking and driving a dangerous undertaking are equally true of drinking and walking. Better for you and your buddies to skip one drink and pool the money for cab fare. So let's talk about privately owned weapons now.
The average adult body holds 10 pints of blood. I've already lost 3. I'll bleed out before the paramedics arrive. Specialist Welch, over there, will tell them that the .45 just discharged. He didn't mean to shoot me. Well, yeah, he didn't mean to throw a party with alcohol. He didn't mean to pull his gun out. And he sure as hell didn't mean to not clear it. He didn't mean to point it at me, joking about how good of a shot he was. And he didn't mean for the bullet to strike my jugular. He didn't mean to cause an accident. Well, that part rings true. Because this was no accident.
20 soldiers have lost their lives to off-duty mishaps involving privately owned weapons since FY17, and another 3 are now permanently disabled. Unintended discharges are commonly referred to as an accidental discharge. It's making a poor decision and taking an unnecessary risk, an accident. Take a hard look at yourself to determine if you have anything in common with those soldiers. 100% were male, and common factors in the mishaps were indiscipline, complacency, and alcohol. All too often, an individual deliberately pointed a weapon at themselves or someone else, believing it to be unloaded, which resulted in tragedy. It's imperative you always follow the basic standards of safe weapon handling, one of which is never, ever point a weapon at anything you don't intend to shoot. Not all weapons operate in the same manner. Proficiency with your assigned military weapon does not make you an expert on all weapons. If you're handling a new weapon, read the owner's manual carefully and take a class to get the proper training. Alcohol is not the correct lubricant for your privately owned weapon. Make no mistake, you should never handle a weapon after or while consuming alcohol. Alcohol was a factor in over half of the POW mishaps within the Army. Additionally, POW mishaps commonly occur in social settings. If you see someone handling a weapon in an unsafe manner, especially while under the influence of alcohol, take action. You could save the life of a family member, a friend, or even your own. So think about it. Let's be clear. Firearms are designed to be lethal, and handling them in an unsafe manner is not an accident or a mishap. Whether you use a weapon for hunting, target shooting, or personal defense, your weapons handling experiences will be far more enjoyable if you protect yourself, your family members, your friends, and fellow soldiers by handling your weapon in a responsible manner. In addition to never mixing alcohol and weapons, you can manage your risk with privately owned weapons if you always think weapons safety. So think, it's an acronym. Treat every weapon as if it were loaded. Handle every weapon we carry. Identify the target before you fire. Never point the muzzle at anything you do not intend to shoot. Keep the weapon on safe and your finger off the trigger until you intend to fire. Now we'll take a look at a few sports-related activities.
It was a great day. Just wanted to get a selfie of me and Jenny. Something to remember the moment. Jenny doesn't like heights.
No, I'm good.
No, this is perfect. Come on.
No, I'm good here.
No need to heed the warning signs. It was just a selfie. It would just take a few seconds to snag the pic. It just took a few seconds for me to fall and hit the rocks, break nearly every bone in my body, turn my brain into mashed potatoes. A deadly accident for a selfie? This was no accident.
During the last 5 years, 17 soldiers died while participating in off-duty sports activities such as hiking, skiing, and skydiving. Hundreds of other soldiers suffered non-fatal sports-related injuries each year, including 6 soldiers who were permanently disabled. Regardless of what sport you decide to participate in, make sure you are physically prepared and have the proper training, required certification, clothing, and equipment to conduct the activity safely. You can mitigate your chances of serious injury or death by actively being aware of the risks during planning and throughout the activity. Make sure you follow all safety procedures. It's also a good idea to take a battle buddy along. Sporting activities and extreme hobbies can be fun, relieve stress, and build confidence, but not preparing for risks can lead you to a fatal or disabling result. Never assume that a sports-related activity that is not extreme is perfectly safe. Most of us consider hiking to be a fairly safe sport, yet over 1/3 of the soldiers who died while participating in off-duty activities during the last 5 years did so from falls while hiking, and another was permanently disabled. Earlier, we mentioned a float plan while boating. Having something similar when participating in other activities is a good way to balance the risks and set the scene to ensure your safety. Let someone know exactly where you're going and the date and time you plan to return. If you're not back on time, they will know where to start looking. Now, let's discuss some issues you may encounter in and or around your home.
I asked my wife to hold the ladder for me, but she was busy with the baby. I could have waited, but I got things to do and I want to get these limbs trimmed. I guess it was a rush to failure. But I didn't know that the ladder would slip, or that the chainsaw would kick, or that I'd land on the picket fence. You know, it was an accident. Or was it?
Most people picture their home as a safe haven when, in fact, mishaps in the home are extremely common and account for a large percentage of all injuries. On duty, whether you're in the motor pool, the field, at a range, or participating in some other mission, you typically apply the risk management process. You identify hazards, put control measures in place to eliminate or mitigate the risk. This acts as a combat multiplier and assists you in successfully accomplishing your mission. When you leave work, don't stop. Continue to use those same risk management strategies to identify and mitigate hazards in your home and during off duty activities. Let's take a look at real world hazards lurking in the safe haven you call home. There are multiple hazards in and around the home, from the kitchen to the bathroom to the backyard. According to the National Safety Council, the top 5 leading causes of accidental death in the homes are falls, fires, burns, drown, choking, suffocation, and poisoning. 7 soldiers died from falls in and around their home or barracks in the last 5 years. These included falls from heights such as ladders, balconies, porches, and falling in a bathroom. If you're using a ladder, always choose the right one for the job. Choosing a ladder is too short could tempt you to reach out from the ladder or stand on the top step. Both are bad decisions. Do not forget to always maintain 3 points of contact with climbing or descending the ladder. I'm here to tell you, in North Carolina, in the last year, we have lost a soldier at home. He fell off of his roof, and unfortunately, he had his nice jack that was down with the pole sticking up. And when he fell, the pole impaled him, and he died of his injuries. So we have got to stay vigilant at home at all times. All right, so hidden hazards. These 5 hidden hazards, as cited by the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission, pose a very real danger and associated with products you and your family may be using every day. Small, powerful magnets, if swallowed, can attract each other inside the body and block, twist, or tear the intestines. If you think your child has swallowed a magnet, seek medical attention immediately. You should make it a point to track the latest safety recalls for products you own and and remove the dangerous ones from your home before they cause harm. As an easy way to protect yourselves, sign up for the recall notices on the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission website. That's www.cpsc.gov. I say again, www.charliepapasierracharlie.gov. Never place a crib or a playpen near the blind. To prevent strangulation, use cordless blinds or install safety devices. National Standards Institute, otherwise known as ANSI, provides a window covering safety standard, which requires that stock or substantially fabricated window coverings be cordless or have inaccessible cords or short cords in any position of the window covering. Additionally, installing window guards will prevent falls from open or partially open windows. Kids and pets climb. Top-heavy furniture, TVs, and stoves can tip over and crush young children or adults. Make all these objects more stable by anchoring them to the wall. Suction from a pool or spa drain can be powerful enough to trap a child or adult. Before your backyard becomes the scene of a tragedy, inspect pools and spas for missing or broken drain covers. If not already installed, install an automatic pump shutoff system. They use the existing pump's motor to detect the drain blockage and quickly shut off the swimming pool pump. Also, you never leave young children or pets unsupervised near a swimming pool. When young children are in a pool, always ensure the responsible adult has been identified as the one to watch them. All too often, adults assume that someone else had their eye on the children, when in reality, no one did. This person should know how to swim and be free of distractions, including their cell phone. Everybody's favorite, grilling. According to the National Fire Protection Association, an average of 10,600 home fires are started by grills each year. 19,700 patients visit the ER because of injuries involving grills. July is the peak month for grill fires, followed by June, May, and August. Before you fire up your grill and visit your local ER, use grills outdoors only. Grilling inside any type of enclosed space, such as a tent or even a garage, poses both a fire hazard and escalates the risk of exposing occupants to toxic gases and potential asphyxiation. Keep children and pets 3 feet from grills. Periodically clean the trays below the grill. Never add charcoal starter fluid when coals or kindling have already been ignited. Clean and perform general maintenance on gas grills at least twice a year. If using a gas cylinder, check the hose for leaks periodically, especially if we're using it for the first time each year. A light soap and water solution applied to the hose will quickly reveal escaping propane by forming bubbles. Leads us directly into fire safety. So over the last 5 years, 3 soldiers along with 2 family members lost their lives in home structure fires. According to the National Fire Protection Agency, or NFPA, in the United States from 2015 to 2019, 3/4 of fire deaths and almost 3/4 of fire injuries were caused by home structure fires. Remember the old adage, the cook who leaves the kitchen burns. Cooking is the leading cause of home fires. Do not allow yourself to be distracted by something happening in another room in your house or barracks. Otherwise, we'll risk starting a fire that could injure or kill you, your family, or your fellow soldiers. According to the NFPA, more than half of the people injured in home fires involving cooking were hurt while attempting to extinguish the fire themselves. If you have any doubt about your ability to extinguish the fire, do not attempt to fight it yourself. Evacuate, call 911, and allow professionals to handle it. You also need to make sure that you have the correct fire extinguisher on hand. Most fire extinguishers in the home are ABC type and are good for putting out normal fires. If you have a grease fire, you need what's called a purple K. So if you do a lot of cooking with grease, deep fat fryers, and that sort of thing, it might be wise to invest in a purple K fire extinguisher, which is meant to put out a grease fire. Smoke alarms. In addition to having an escape plan, a great way to buy yourself some extra time in fire emergency is to install smoke alarms. Smoke spreads faster than a fire. Working smoke alarms are critical for early detection in a fire in your home and significantly increase your chances of surviving. In fact, having a working smoke alarm when a fire breaks out in your home cuts your chances of dying almost in half. Did you know that roughly half of home fire deaths result from fires reported between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m., when most people are asleep? That's why it's important to install smoke alarms on every level of your home, to include the basement. According to the NFPA, from 2015 to 2019, 3 in every 5 home fire deaths resulted from fires in homes with no smoke alarms, or at least one smoke alarm that was not working. To provide protection, smoke alarms must be maintained. Smoke alarm with a dead or missing battery is the same as having no smoke alarm at all. Test your smoke alarms once a month and replace the batteries twice a year. A good rule of thumb to remember to change the batteries is change your clock, change your battery. When you change your clock for daylight savings time, which we don't have anymore, make sure to replace the batteries in each of the smoke alarms in your house with a fresh one. So now that we're not doing it, we don't use the time, spring forward, spring back, and we're not changing our clocks anymore. Get it on your schedule. We all have smartphones nowadays. Put it in your phone. Check my fire alarms. Of course, the best way to escape a fire is to avoid having it in the first place. Here are a few tips. Never smoke in bed. Avoid grease buildup in the kitchen. If you have a vent hood, make sure it stays clean because grease does, believe it or not, if you cook a lot, that grease does build up. If you have a hood that sucks that stuff out, that grease does get pulled up in there and it can cake up. So make sure that you are cleaning it. Inspect wires. If you find any worn or exposed wiring, discontinue their use immediately. A fire is imminent. Do not place cords and wires under rugs, over nails, or in high traffic areas. Use extreme caution when using candles. Don't light a candle and then go to sleep with the candle on. If you have candles on, stay diligent. Make sure you blow them out before you go to bed. Keep washers and dryers clean, paying particular attention to lint traps and dryer vents. Now, I'm here to tell you, um, it's worth the 60 to 80 bucks, whatever it costs nowadays, to have someone come and clean out your dryer vent. If you don't want to pay somebody else to do it, the kits are fairly cheap nowadays. That's what I did in my own home. I bought a kit to clean my dryer vent, educated myself on how to do it, and I have an counter invite on my phone every 6 months reminding me to do it. Carbon monoxide is a colorless, odorless gas. You can't see it or smell it. It is extremely poisonous, and high levels of it can kill within minutes. Well, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, each year nearly 400 Americans die from unintentional CO poisoning not linked to fires. More than 20,000 visit emergency rooms and more than 4,000 are hospitalized. CO is found in fumes produced anytime you burn fuel in cars, trucks, small engine stoves, lanterns, grills, fireplaces, gas ranges, or furnaces. CO can build up indoors and poison people and animals who breathe it. So, how do you know if CO is present? Well, it's not easy. CO symptoms are often described as flu like and include headache, dizziness, weakness, upset stomach, vomiting, chest pain, and confusion. If you breathe a lot of CO, it can make you pass out or even kill you. People who are sleeping or drunk can die from CO poison before they have symptoms. You can prevent CO poison by following some basic guidelines. CO alarms should be installed in a central location outside of each sleeping area and on every level of your home and in other locations where required by applicable laws, codes, or standards. For the best protection, interconnect all CO alarms throughout the home. When one sounds, they all should sound. Test CO alarms at least once a month. Replace them according to the manufacturer's instructions. If the CO alarm sounds, immediately move to a fresh air location outdoors by an open window or door. Make sure everyone inside the home is accounted for. Call for help from a fresh air location and stay there until emergency personnel arrive. Have your heating system, water heater, and any other gas, oil, or coal burning appliance serviced by a qualified technician every year. Have your chimney checked or cleaned every year. Chimneys can be blocked by debris. This can cause CO to build up inside your home. Do not operate gas fireplaces for more than a few hours at a time. And be sure also to crack a window or to allow any lingering gases to escape. Don't use a generator, charcoal grill, camp stove, or other fuel burning device inside your home, basement, or garage. I tell y'all, that is very important. I go to every facility in this state, and too often I see heaters that are fuel burning inside of our working areas. We need to make sure that we do not do that. Also, go back to the whole gas grill cooking thing. I've seen everything from a grill inside of a working bay at a maintenance facility. I've seen them inside, yes, inside break rooms. I say again, I've seen grills inside break rooms actively being used to cook inside. I have seen smokers at the workplace left unattended right next to a bag on burning, right next to a bag of charcoal, right next to the building. Matter of fact, leaning up against the building. Right? all of which we need to not do. POVs. In FY21, the Army lost 67 soldiers to off-duty private motor vehicle mishap. Those 67 deaths accounted for 78% of all off-duty fatalities during that time. The 67 does not include the 6 soldiers on foot that were struck by a motor vehicle. From FY17 to FY21, each year we lost an average of 60 soldiers, 60, every year to off-duty PMV mishaps. 41% of those fatalities involve soldiers on motorcycles. Recreational vehicles such as ATVs and snowmobiles can also be killers, and we generally see 1 or 2 of those fatal mishaps each year. Without a doubt, private motor vehicle mishaps are the #1 accidental killers of our soldiers. So here you'll see a common myth related to driving. Let's discuss the facts rather than the fiction contained in these myths. The first statement is a tricky one. While alcohol is a factor in some fatal PMV mishaps, it's not the #1. Speeding and lack of seatbelt use are more commonly cited. The second myth addresses an issue that is becoming far too common. As a driver, you are already multitasking, using visual, cognitive, manual skills to drive. Adding an unnecessary distraction takes your attention away from one of the necessary tasks and places you and others at risk. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, texting is the most alarming distraction while driving. Sending or reading a text takes your eyes off the road for 5 seconds. At 55 miles per hour, that's like driving the length of an entire football field with your eyes closed. Now, let's discuss the other guy as the primary cause of mishaps involving the vehicles. On average, more than half of all motorcycle mishaps are single vehicle. There's a reported 80% chance of injury or death on a motorcycle in the event of a mishap compared to 20% for passenger vehicles. In the fatal mishaps that do not involve multiple vehicles, more than 75% involve head-on collisions, especially with vehicles that cross the lane of traffic but fail to spot the motorcycle. Speeding and loss of control cause the majority of the mishaps. The Army documented 24 fatalities due to motorcycle mishaps in FY21, and excessive speed was cited in 25% of them. The final statement is not only a myth for bad mishaps, it's a myth for minor mishaps as well. Wearing a helmet could make the difference between life and death in any motorcycle mishap. According to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, in states without universal helmet laws, 57% of motorcyclists killed in 2019 were not wearing helmets, as compared to 9% in states with universal helmet laws. I'll say that again. 57% of motorcyclists killed in 2019 were not wearing their helmets. Helmets are estimated to be 37% effective in preventing fatal injuries to motorcycle riders and 41% for motorcycle passengers. In other words, for every 100 motorcycle riders killed in crashes while not wearing helmets, 37 of them could have been saved had all 100 been wearing helmets. So, how do you define yourself? Think about each of the definitions above and honestly evaluate which apply to you. Be the well disciplined soldier you should be, which will help prevent you from becoming a victim of an accident. Well, again, undisciplined, right? So it's an untrained soldier who has not received any counsel or mentorship and is not directly involved with leadership. Discipline, right? So a disciplined soldier is a fully trained counseling mentored soldier and is directly involved with their leadership. Indisciplined, fully trained, counseled, and mentored soldier is directly involved with leadership, but operates the vehicle in an unsafe manner and disregards requirements. Right? So we have undisciplined, disciplined, and indisciplined. So this slide tells us the tale of speed. Excessive speed was reported as a contributing factor in 6 of the 43 fatalities and 6 of the 24 motorcycle fatalities in FY21. That's 12 soldiers who lost their lives last fiscal year because they lacked the discipline to obey the speed limit. In addition to the risk of injury or death from speeding, there are other consequences you may face. Depending on the state, a driver caught speeding may have to pay a large fine, be charged with reckless driving, lose or have points assessed on their license, or spend time in jail.
I had a 250cc bike when I was in high school. Street legal. Rode that thing all the time. Everywhere. Didn't seem that long ago. Then, my buddy let me take this monster for a ride. Just a quick spin down the road. No need to take a basic rider course for that, right? Heck, I haven't owned a bike in years. He should have never offered it. I should have never accepted it. Right here, this is where I hit going 70. Now, just another fatal motorcycle accident statistic. But this was no accident.
No. So there's a significant fact about motorcycles, and that fact is 41% of all personal vehicles in FY21. So 41% of our deaths were on motorcycles. From head to toe, good quality PPE is an essential part of a motorcyclist rider gear. Wearing a helmet is an obvious way to reduce severity of a head injury or prevent it altogether. And there is no question that a full face helmet provides the most protection. Many soldiers believe they don't have to wear a helmet if riding in a no helmet state. This is not true. An approved helmet, along with other PPE, is required at all times for all Army military personnel operating or riding on a motorcycle, moped, ATV, on or off duty, and on or off an installation. Additionally, Army civilian personnel are required to wear the same PPE when on a military installation, in a duty status, on and off an installation, or operating a DoD on motorcycle. Right? So those contain impact absorbing padding are strongly encouraged. Riders are also encouraged to select PPE that incorporates fluorescent colors and retro reflective material. There's a reason that dress for the slide, not the ride, is a common motto among motorcycle riders. If you think the cost of buying PPE is too high, consider the cost of not wearing. You must, and I say again, you must successfully complete the basic rider course before operating a motorcycle. AR 38510 requires that you be properly trained and licensed. The Army Progressive Motorcycle Program is comprised of 3 courses. Each is designed to keep motorcycle operator training current and to sustain or enrich rider skills. Within 12 months of completing the BRC, soldiers must undergo a second round of training in the Advanced Rider course. Sustainment training in the form of ARC is mandatory every 5 years after completion. I'll say that one more time. Sustainment training in the form of the Advanced Riders course is mandatory every 5 years after initial completion. For individuals who have been deployed for 180 days or longer, there's an additional requirement to attend a motorcycle refresher training course. This course can be taught at the local level without a certified rider coach. These classes are free to soldiers. As an added bonus, you may receive 1 hour of college credit for completing the basic rider's course. Motorcycle skills are perishable and need to be refreshed occasionally. Operating a motorcycle without the proper training and skills seriously increases your risk of having an accident. It looks easy, but it takes a great deal of practice, coordination, and mental attention to ride a motorcycle and constant practice to maintain proficiency. The proper training will provide you with a clear picture of what right looks like so you can enjoy your ride. So in the North Carolina Army National Guard, there's several ways to get the training done. I would ask that you, and if you're a rider and you get with your chain of command, get with the safety office, and we can explain the different ways that you could actually take the class. For the refresher training, there is a video that can be watched, and that video is located on the CRC website. Again, reach out to the safety office. If you don't know where to go to find this stuff, it's all on our team's page. If you're not sure how to get to our team page, again, you can reach out to us at the end of the presentation. I'll make sure you got my contact info, and we can talk you through the different ways that you can receive your motorcycle safety training. All right. So another acronym, but it's C, search around you for potential hazards. Searching provides a rider with information needed to make good decisions and take proper action. Evaluate any possible hazard, such as turning cars. Evaluation includes anticipating potential problems and developing a course of action in your mind to deal with those problems. Execute the proper action to avoid the hazard. A skilled rider is a decisive rider. Resist the urge to pause or second guess your decision. Time and space are at a premium. Act decisively immediately to maximize your response time and to keep your safety cushion as large as possible. Seeing will allow you to get the proper view to take ownership of your riding safety by identifying hazards and implementing controls to avoid becoming a statistic. Now, I'm here to tell you, not long after I started this job some years ago in the safety office, we were tasked with, all right, over the previous 10 years in the state of North Carolina, I forget the date, time range, or I'd give it to you, but we looked at 10 years previous, and there were 15 on record that we knew about, 15 motorcycle incidents. 10 of those were survived by the rider. Tragically, 5 of those perished. When we did a deep dive and looked at it, all 10 of the survivors had taken some sort of motorcycle safety foundation training and or had been a part of the advanced rider sustainment training. All 5 of those that died, there was no record. I can't say they didn't have the training, but what we could say was there was no record or no evidence to suggest that they had been to any type of motorcycle safety foundation training. Call that a coincidence if you want to. And I'm not saying that class is 100% foolproof and will save your life just because you had it. However, the data tells us that taking the chance significantly increases a rider's ability to survive a mishap or avoid the mishap altogether. All right. So when it comes to regular automobiles, SUVs, trucks, vans, wear your seatbelt. Obey the speed limit. Do not drink and drive. Blah, 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 blah. How many times have you been annoyed by the same old safety briefing? Guess why you keep hearing it? That's right, because soldiers continue to not wear their seatbelts. They fail to obey speed limit and they drink and drive, which results in many of them being injured or killed in automobile mishaps. Once again, if you fail to take the appropriate actions that will prevent the mishap and or lessen the severity of injury, was it really an accident? FY21, off-duty fatalities in automobiles. At least 6 soldiers were not wearing their seatbelts. At least 6 of the mishaps involved speed. At least 5 of the mishaps involved alcohol. Buckling up is the single most effective thing you can do to protect yourself in a crash. From 1975, when the National Highway Transportation and Safety Administration FARS database began, through 2019, seatbelts. So 1975 to 2019, seatbelts have saved an estimated 374,276 lives. If all passengers had worn seatbelts during these years, a total of 760,994, that is an additional 386,000 lives could have been saved. State and host nation seatbelt laws vary. However, 38510, the Army Safety Program, does not vary. The standard for soldiers is that occupant protective devices will always be worn when driving or riding in a PMV, whether on or off installation. Additionally, the vehicle's operator is responsible for informing passengers and ensuring that they're buckled as well. Again, get into a vehicle with all your buddies, you're the driver, don't drive until everyone is buckled up. Very important. Distracted driving. So let's talk more about this disturbing trend we mentioned earlier. According to the United States Department of Transportation, at any given daylight moment across America, approximately 660,000 people are using cell phones or manipulating electronic devices while driving. In 2019 alone, 3,142 people were killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted drivers. When you drive a car or ride a motorcycle, you're multitasking. Your brain, hands, and eyes are all working together to keep you on the road, in your lane, and safe from other drivers. Doing another activity that distracts you from the primary task of controlling the vehicle can leave you vulnerable to a mishap. Stay focused while driving as a necessity. Distracted driving includes texting or talking on a cell phone, eating and drinking, talking to passengers, grooming, using a navigation system or reading, including maps, watching a video, or adjusting an audio system. All these activities can increase the chance of a motor vehicle accident. In AR 38510, which is the standard, prohibits texting and driving, as well as cell phone use while driving, while on a DoD installation or operating a government-owned vehicle. Use of a cell phone is restricted to hands-free devices only. This practice is highly encouraged for all soldiers at all times. So if you think you're driving a GSA and you think you might have to be on the phone, right? I would encourage you to make that phone call before you leave or make it where you're going. But if you have to take that phone call, ensure that you have hands free either through a mobile hands free device like AirPods, or you take the time to pair the phone in that GSA prior to movement. Right. So while you're doing your inspection of GSA, before you sign it out, before you roll out, get your cell phone nice and paired with the vehicle. That way, if you have to take that important phone call, that you can do so hands free. It goes for your POVs as well. Or if you might be driving another buddy's vehicle, if you know it's not paired, you know you can't go hands free. Either stop and pull over to make that phone call, send that text or receive that text, or just wait till you get where you're going. So fatigue slows reaction time and leads to higher mishaps or traffic mishaps. In fact, fatigued and drowsy drivers cause an estimated 100,000 police reported crashes each year. And these types of crashes are more likely to result in a fatality. Why? Because 24 hours with no sleep makes you just as dangerous on the road as someone with 0.08 blood alcohol. Like a drunk driver, the drowsy driver's judgment, reaction time, and memory are impaired. Doctors also point out that drowsiness is not a warning sign. It's the last thing that happens before you fall asleep. Do you really want to risk the consequences of driving fatigued? Would it be better to take a nap? Yes, you'll arrive a few hours later than planned, but isn't that better than not driving at all? Where this has hit us in North Carolina Army National Guard, and it tends to be on the rise, is driving to and from drill. So we have to be diligent, both the people driving and leaders, in understanding the ramifications of driving fatigued. A big one is soldier works third shift, so they got to work Friday night from, let's say, 10 o'clock at night till 4 in the morning. But oh, by the way, now I got to be at drill 8 o'clock. So they get off of work, immediately start driving the drill, and fall asleep. It's happened. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but it's happened more than a couple times over the last year. And then the inverse of that would be, okay, got a nice Muta 6 going down to Fort Bragg. You go down, play Army, G.I. Joe with the Kung Fu grip. We get back to the armory. Everyone's operating on not as much sleep as they're normally accustomed to during the week when they're at home. And now we tell them formation's over, bye, go home. And folks leave drill on the way home, they're tired, and they get into a mishap. So ensure that you build in times to make sure that you rest appropriately. If you feel like you're tired, let somebody know. Talk it out with leadership. It's better to make that phone call and talk through it than it is to say, I've got to do this. You drive fatigued and fall asleep. All right, let's talk about ATVs. So ATV or ROV. So ROV is a recreational off-highway vehicle. ATV, everybody knows ATV is the all-terrain vehicle. There are actually some very significant differences between the two. And if both types of off-roaders are four-wheeled and used for similar types of recreation. If you're operating ATV or an ROV, it's extremely important to get the proper training for that specific vehicle type. Training is normally available through the dealer where you purchased it. If you require a used ATV or ROV, training information is available from the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the Specialty Association. You can also access these websites and any other ATV through the Combat Readiness Center's website. I'm here to tell you, those videos are great. We also have some additional training materials. If you'd like, please reach out to us in the safety office, and we can help provide that to you. Remember, online training is a great tool, but hands-on is always the preferred method. All the gear, all the time cannot be stressed enough. Wear an approved helmet, goggles, gloves, over-the-ankle boots, long sleeve shirt, long pants. According to 385.10, during off-road operation, operators and riders must use additional PPE such as shin, knee guards, and padded full-fingered gloves. Once again, it's all about managing risk to avoid the mishap. Get the right training, wear the appropriate riding gear, check your local laws. Some states require off-road vehicle decals and have a designated riding areas. Many ATV mishaps occur at places other than approved riding areas. So responsibility. It's everybody's responsibility, right? It's absolutely necessary for all of us to behave in a responsible manner and do the right thing. Leaders, ensure you are engaging your soldiers and providing the information required for them to safely operate their motor vehicles off duty. Remind them often that safety is no laughing matter. Real life actions have real life consequences. Actively managing risks associated with off-duty activities is the key to saving their lives. If you're considering the cop out of, but what if the other person is at fault? Consider this. While it is true you may have no control over the actions of others, such as another individual operating a motor vehicle on the highway, you do have control over your own behavior. You can implement control measures to prevent the accident completely or lessen the consequences of the other motorist actions. How about obeying the speed limit, leaving a safe following distance, wearing your seatbelt or other PPE for starters? And of course, make sure you have the proper training and you are not operating a motor vehicle after consuming alcohol.
Nearly every accident our Army suffers is preventable. They simply do not need to happen. Leaders, train your soldiers to standard and communicate your expectations for their behavior both on and off duty. Understanding the concept of personal risk management can keep you and your soldiers alive and in the fight. Together, we will achieve readiness through safety.
Circle back down round to accident definitions. The truth is that the majority of the events that we refer to as accidents really are not accidents because they can be prevented. They generally result from carelessness, unawareness, ignorance, or a combination of causes. And you are the key to preventing the next one from occurring. We really do not have to have accidents. We can prevent them. And a lot of times we don't even know if we did prevent something, right? Because we do it, we operate safely, and we move on. Do we get lucky or are we prepared? I'd rather not err on the side of lucky. I'd rather be prepared. And I'd rather you all ensure that you are prepared both mentally, physically for the activity in which you're about to take place in. So remember, there really does not have to be an accident. You can prevent it. So this does conclude the briefing. However, I'm going to give you a couple pieces of contact information. So again, my name is Mr. Wilson. My first name is Hugh, H-U-G-H. Last name Wilson, W-I-L-S-O-N. My work telephone number is 984-664-6153. I say again, 984-664-6153. I'm the only Hugh Wilson in the North Carolina Army National Guard, so I'm not hard to find via email. Other people in the office are CW3 William Todd Garrett. There's also Major Flythe, George Flythe. He's a state occupational health manager. If you have any questions or want any further tools to help you prevent any of the things we talked about today or to help educate yourself or any of your service members, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. If you need help with your motorcycle safety training, whatever it is, please do not hesitate to reach out for clarification. We'll get you everything we can possibly get you to ensure that you're down the right path. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to call and or email. This concludes the briefing.